The Backrooms, a place of the unknown, your fate to be alone. It's a popular internet myth, a community of fluctuating size, and a concept that challenges the fears and imaginations of many users. You've heard its origin many times now, from its first post on 4chan to the wikidot, and all the way back to the first photograph and the legend who took it, Robert Mazza, I believe. With the recent release of The Backrooms in the form of an A24 film, it reminds me of the days when I played a key role in this community. That is, perhaps, the more infamous part of it. You see, the film's director, Kane Pixels, has been one of my main inspirations for a long time now. In fact, he's the reason I've been looking to pursue a future career in film. I was a young teen when the movie was first announced, and now I'm almost through high school. Things have been no easier since I left the Backrooms community. If anything, they got way harder. But you're not here for another history lesson, are you? Hello, my name is Lily Chai Studios, elusive creative mind lurking behind way too many unfinished internet products, many of which I can guarantee that you have never heard of. But if you recognize my name, chances are you recognize my best received project that I've made in my life so far, Ashley and Reality's Boundary. It was a series that revolved around the Backrooms in its recognizable wikidot lore form, and it was meant to be the extended story of a typical high school gotcha life mini-movie gone wrong. But there are a few problems here. One, most people don't like the concepts presented by the Backrooms wikidot. And two, the gotcha franchise has gone straight under the bus these past 2 years as well, thanks to an equal combination of content farming and inappropriate videos, respectively. Both communities weren't very stable by the time I left. The issue here with the Backrooms is that, after a while, it wasn't a collaborative internet myth project anymore. It was a debate about what true horror is. And while I'm all for those kinds of discussions, a lot of them sound like this. The Backrooms is a set of rooms. That's it. These levels people are adding make the Backrooms feel overcomplicated and detracts from the original media made by the post on 4chan. Too many people will see even a minutely unnerving picture and call it a Backrooms level. What's the point? None. Cramming goofy smiling entities into the lore is like trying to add cereal into chicken broth. You not only add something that doesn't belong there, but also risk ruining the flavor of the original thing. No entities unless it's a hallucination. No levels. Just yellow walls. That's the horror of the Backrooms. Now, is there some validity to my over-exaggerated rendition of this argument? I guess I can see it. But here's the problem with this approach, at least for me. You can't do anything with it. It's very strict. Ultimately, it's not fun anymore. Yeah, it's scary because you're trapped in a sensory deprivation hell that smells like shit and you'll either go insane, starve to death, or both. Here's the kick to this take. You can write that concept for just about anything. Actually, that's not a half bad idea. If the Backrooms is going to continue to be an argument instead of a piece of media, then why not write my own version of it? After all, who knows what A24 is going to do with that copyright? I know they can't really copyright the Backrooms idea entirely, but it's better to be safe than sorry. So come along with me as I present a brand new place that is like the Backrooms, but more specific than a 1,000,000 square mile yellow complex and less saturated than badly modeled content farm slop. We're going to be in the middle of that, if not even grayer on the scale. We're going to be in the in-between. The Place with No Skies is my rewrite for the original story, Ashley and Reality's Boundary. The original title was good and had some bounce to it, but looking back it wasn't giving horror. It was giving surrealist isekai, which I guess that's the kind of thing I enjoyed writing. But the place with no skies feels a little more ominous. The place with no skies. What is this place? Of course, with the context you have, you already know the answer. Let's start with the basic things we need to address. The Backrooms has its many strengths and weaknesses, at least when it comes to the wikidot, as has been highlighted by many fans. In general, the Backrooms is praised for approaching the idea of liminal horror, which is generally described as a horror genre based on locations that invoke the uncanny sensation, as if you're not supposed to be there, since it's a transitional space devoid of people. Especially in relation to the Backrooms, it's an empty space that just feels off. This effect is achieved because the original image is supposed to be a furniture store, but because everything within it is gone, your brain gives it the raised eyebrow. The original text post, you've heard it 1,000 times by now, so I'm not reciting it, mentions a carpet rancid with moisture, fluorescent lights that drone on forever in your eardrums, and an exhausting amount of space that's only the same area mirrored everywhere. The most important and perhaps controversial aspect, however, is the mention of a something that might have heard you. God save you now. People collectively like the Backrooms because it hits the horror sweet spot, the unknown. That's why so many people ended up being opposed to the near-endless cataloging of Backrooms lore, because now it is an unknown, technically. As much as I love the lore on the wikidot back in 2021 myself, it's often criticized for being an SCP copy and ruins the concept. My first proposal for this rewrite, then, would be cataloging this place in the form of an old personal blog website. This blog website, created by junior microbiologist Clyde McDowell, was originally dedicated to sharing a passion for hiking in the wilderness. Every few weeks or so, McDowell would post fun facts about wildlife, hiking tips for all levels of beginners, and even some pictures he took on hikes himself. All of these pictures are situated around the same area in which he works, Alger County, Michigan. However, after a while, his blog takes a sharp turn from innocent to downright odd. Instead of wildlife pictures, there are indoor spaces almost devoid of any furnishing, sickly dim lighting, and way too many walls. After a few of these confusing posts, he starts capturing snapshots of creatures, which are usually blurry thanks to the camera quality that existed back in the early 2000s. His scientific knowledge enables him to approach these strange creatures with a researcher mindset, and he posts observations he notices on his blog. Unfortunately, time is running short for his sanity, and some of these creatures can only be observed from so close. He calls them aberrations. It seems there's no real transition that brought him to this place, meaning no clipping. He admits there's a noticeable gap in memory when he tries to figure out how he got here, but as far as he knows, he was alone one moment, hiking back home in the dark, and suddenly, he was treading a tile pathway the next.
Layers.
The in-between is comprised of a few layers, sometimes sublocations. This is to cut down on the overcomplication of lore which is often criticized, while also leaving room for a major differentiation between locations. Because McDowell wasn't the most creative, these layers are each named with one word that defines them most. Layer 1 is called Walkway, Layer 2 is called Burrow, Reckoning, Mortar, Fractals, and the final layer 6, which is Curtain. The most obscure layer name here would be 3, but that mostly refers to the fact that it was by then McDowell realized he couldn't really leave this place. So let's discuss each layer.
Layer 1, Walkway.
The layout of Walkway consists of a series of wide, hallway-like spaces, a majority of which are directed by a white tile path on the floor's center. The main recurring room appears to be an empty clothing store corridor with little spotlights that display empty crevices in the architecture. This layer is most infamous for its overall yellow-green appearance and recurring nature, where almost every corridor looks the same. There are a few rooms where the dressing room doors, small empty rooms off to the side, can switch to the right or the left or even the back. In some cases, the dressing rooms can be out in the middle of an empty connector room, which is a large space that leads from one corridor to the next. Unlike the backrooms, which is mind-numbingly loud, Walkway is extremely quiet. You'd have to listen very closely just to catch the slightest flicker of a distant light, or even the hum of them overhead. The overhead vents only work about 50% of the time, which amplifies the fact this layer has no known power source, and possibly neither do any of the others. Chairs, carts, and shelves can be found on this
layer,
but are usually empty and hard to find anyway. It's always room temperature in this layer, which might leave the senses feeling deprived by equilibrium. This layer is large and does have an end, but due to its repeating nature, many can be left feeling like it goes on forever. It takes a long time to understand differentiations in each area. There is also a vanishing phenomenon in this layer. If you place an item down, leave it, and come back too long after, there's a chance it will be gone entirely with no known reason. Good luck trying to lay those breadcrumb trails. This layer has a minimal aberration count too. As long as you stick to the light as much as possible, you're unlikely to end up in harm's way. Then again, that doesn't make the occasional shattering of silence by a distant grumble any more comforting, does it? To leave this layer, you need to locate the largest instance of the repeated corridor, enter the second dressing room to your left, open a trap door, and go down with it.
Layer 2, Burrow.
Burrow is a system of interconnected underground tunnels completed with dead, dried-up roots hanging from above, giant boulders blocking some tunnels, and even a few areas where there are thousands of tiny little holes in the wall that produce a faint whistling sound. It's harder to notice because Burrow isn't silent like the previous layer. Instead, there's always an odd rumbling sound that pulsates through the surface, but there's never any vibrations resulting from the noise. If you're not careful, you might mistake the noise as coming from the back of your head. The good thing about this layer is there's some earth floor that can be found here, moss and weeds. Even earthworms can be found if you're lucky. The bad thing about this is, unless you're an absolute survival genius who can run on the fumes layer 1 leaves you on, there's not much you can do with these things. This layer usually tricks victims into believing they're finding their way back home. Such familiar surroundings, although vague, can be comforting. Despite its seemingly underground position, this layer is actually on the colder side. Not enough to freeze you, necessarily, but it'll give you goosebumps if you sit around too long. This layer isn't much, and it's about as safe as it gets. Don't trip on any roots, and hopefully you don't have trypophobia. Otherwise, you might feel painfully tense for the entire way. To exit this layer, you have to find the entrance to a mine shaft, marked by a heavy, rusty iron doorframe. As you ascend up the final tunnel, you might be lucky enough to find, at long last, food. Do be careful what you pick though. There's a pathogen aberration that's attracted to foods with gluten in it. So if you consume those, you begin to feel very sick. The illness won't kill you, because that would be too merciful at this point. But it feels a lot like a bad cold with a sharp burning sensation in the stomach. When it's over, you'll likely be starving from how much you did not want to eat during the sickness. Also, I hope you like the taste of desert sand, because all food and water in the in-between tastes exactly like that. If you are already carrying any food on you, It also tastes like sand after the first 5 hours since you appeared in between. Picture this. You are wandering a large, empty store with no character or sound and almost no way out. You loop the same room over and over, and after some time it felt like you might never leave. You reach an access to the underground, which is filled with things that are the least bit more recognizable. Of course, those things are just basic components of nature, dirt, rocks, and moss. But it felt like a guarantee that you'd encountered a real exit ahead. You ascend up the path of a semi-enclosed mine shaft, when all of a sudden...
Layer 3. Reckoning.
Reckoning is an expanse of rooms and halls similar to Layer 1, only a lot more confusing. Fortunately, there's no trickery here, no false hope, no exactly similar rooms that make you feel like you're going in circles. In fact, this layer is where things start getting brutal. You are halfway, after all. This layer is defined by its brick walls with elaborate but random designs. These can be 3D, such as pillar structuring, or 2D, such as, this stock image will give you a pretty good idea. The lighting level throughout this layer is the most consistent. Almost too consistent. Everywhere you go, the lighting is dim, even without any apparent light fixture. There are still a few sconces on the walls, though. Not dim enough to need squinting, but also not bright enough for everything you see to be immediately clear. If you were to try and relate the structure's purpose to something you knew of, it seems to be a cross between an old train station and a mall. There are no doors, just curved archways that lead into another room. If you do find any doors, the handles are fake and cannot be turned. The deeper you go, the more your lungs struggle to find oxygen amidst the thickening smell of dust. Each room on Reckoning has unique architecture that vaguely resembles the inside of building facade work, which can be from any era and any purpose. What do I mean by this? If you've ever played one of those older video games and accidentally glitched into a building you can't enter, you saw the empty inside shell of that building's exterior. But instead of windows to the outside, here they're just black rectangular holes. Don't try to climb up and go through one of those holes, because you don't want to know what will happen to you if you try. As you get closer to these holes, however, you'll feel a significant pressure building in your ears. You might think it's because of the elevation you're at, but the pressure is a lot more intense than a typical change in altitude. You might even start to hear your own heartbeat. Take this as you will. It is easier to find food and water throughout this layer, so congratulations for making it this far. If you're enjoying the ride, make sure to give the video a like when it's all over. Most of the food here just so happens to be slightly too hard bred, so have fun taking that gamble. To leave this layer, assuming you dare to continue down this path, you have to find the room with the most modern architecture indoors. Turn the corner and you'll find a stairwell that takes you down to the next layer.
Layer 4. Mortar.
So originally, the design for Layer 3 was my plan for this layer, because, you know, bricks and mortar. But I came up with a better idea. Once again, we start off with the overall look of this layer. Up until this point, any walls you've encountered, and you've encountered a lot of them, had one thing in common. All of the corners are at a squared end and are flat, for the most part. The walls on Mortar, however, are round, sleek, and curving, almost as if reality itself forgot to add definition to their shape. If you try leaning against them, you will slowly sink in like an animal caught in active mortar. Now, this is easy to escape, as long as you notice it in a reasonable amount of time. Anything that had been submerged in the wall will come back out gray, unfortunately. Again, It's as if reality forgot to put the texture of active mortar on you and just colored that spot gray and called it a day. There's nothing too bad about this effect other than the gray areas feeling colder, and it can go away in roughly 525,600 minutes or so. The overall ambient of this layer comes from the distant sound of howling winds overhead. No drafts of air are ever felt. The floors are made of smooth concrete tile for the most part, although there are patches of dark gray carpets spotted randomly throughout the layer. Also, this layer has no visible ceiling. Its walls seem to extend upwards into a dark abyss. Lighting on this layer comes from semicircular cage lights on the floor. There's also furniture on this layer that vaguely resembles the kinds of items you'll find in a house. Concerningly domestic things like wooden shelves that are empty, decorative vases, kitchen tables and coffee tables, desks and vanities without a mirror, closet doors, half sunken in the floor for some reason. You get the gist. Everything but chairs, couches, or beds. Also, none of the appliances actually work because there's nothing to power them. If you find anything, like cupboards or drawers, they will not be able to open no matter how hard you tug at them, as if they're sealed shut. Maybe that's for the better, because some of these objects in particular make a faint rattling sound when approached. There are some areas with a sectioned solid wall off to the side. If the wall is yellow with a white door, it will take you back to layer 1. You cannot re-enter mortar after doing this, if you even wanted to do that. Walls of any other dusty color with any other kind of door will take you to an enclosed room with a single lamp that does work, a random railing that serves no purpose and is usually made of iron, old window shutters hanging in a rectangular indent in the wall, and sometimes a giant hole in the left wall, which may or may not be a dark tunnel to a random aberration's nest. This layer is dominated by a tall species that searches the abyss above. Hopefully it doesn't find you. To leave mortar, you have to find a giant dome-like structure, enter it, and resist the temptation to look behind yourself in the dark.
Layer 5. Fractals.
And now we've descended from quietly dangerous to downright creepy. Fractals is perhaps the most complex layer in respect to layout, resembling the interior of a house, where the overall feel of each room tends to stay symmetrical. There are 2 kinds of flooring on this layer, red and pink tiles, and the abstract pattern carpets, which is where Clyde got the layer's name from. Each room in this house tends to have the opposite purpose for what its size would suggest. From an area as large as a living room with bathroom appliances to a walk-in closet with an entire dining table. The overall lighting on this layer is inconsistent, ranging from complete darkness to dim orange lighting. There are no windows, but there are some depictions of windows in the faded murals on the walls. I wouldn't recommend touching any fresh paint. Like layer 4, Fractals has no working appliances, except for a select few ovens and fridges, which tend to be empty, but some of the cupboards actually can be opened. This is the only layer where everyone enters at the same starting point, a hall, though you'll never encounter someone else here unless you leave, return, and get extraordinarily lucky to even encounter another human being in the first place. Considering the layer you're on, though, it's probably the worst place to be traveling in a group of more than one. This starting point is a white hallway with the tile floor I mentioned earlier, a single fluorescent light behind you, sconces that don't work, a rounded doorway in front of you. Just look at the image I'm referencing. Any parts of this house-like layer that are in darkness, except for the starting area, are marked with a single small balloon where the dark area begins and ends. These balloons come in desaturated reds, yellows, and greens, and cannot be moved. Seriously, if you bump one out of place and look away, it goes back to its original spot by the time you look again. That's the thing with the in-between, though. Unless you're opening a door, nothing can change the environment. It can only change you. Some counters might have food on them, but in most cases you'll find raw cooking material. Actually, a lot of these baking materials are in a packaging with the brand Little Bake, which seems to be a ripoff of the Easy Bake brand, and the nutritional facts label on the back is a bit blurry. Any regular food you'll find here will have the same sandy taste effect, except now there's a faint metallic tang for some strange reason. Who knows why? Like Reckoning, there are some doorways on this layer without any doors. What's different on this layer is that the doorways without doors are 9.5 feet tall, and there are some doors, but they're mostly found in the more standardized 7-foot doorways. Rooms behind doors are the most normal. The exact sizes of Layer 5, and Layer 4 actually, are unknown due to how dangerous they are. Some room sizes that shouldn't lead to other rooms exist, like a bathroom-sized room leading directly into a very tall room, and as far as it's known, every direction leads to another room, and so on. Until you have encounters, it's probably the most liminal layer. To exit Fractals, avoid letting any ευτυχισμενοι see you. And then, find a fridge with a flower-shaped magnet on its right door. This flower magnet should hang a single sheet of white paper with a children's drawing of a stage, 2 people, and a pink bear dancing on it. This fridge is completely empty. Not even shelves, not even a freezer. So step inside and shut yourself in it. I know, it sounds like a difficult place to reach, but most people end up there anyway when they're hiding from the ευτυχισμενοι. When you reach forwards, you'll find that your surrounding environment has changed. What's this? We're at the halfway mark. Only the same amount of time left to go. If you haven't already, please subscribe, please subscribe, please subscribe, please subscribe, please subscribe, please subscribe, please.
Layer 6 Curtain.
All good shows end with a curtain. After that, it's all you see. You will enter this layer from one of its closets either below or inside the lighting control booth, or sometimes even a lodge box. Opening the door in front of you will eventually lead to a well-lit theater auditorium. Compared to everywhere else, the auditorium area is relatively small, with 3 full areas for seating. There's no sitting down, though, as the seats themselves are just the backs. The seat part is missing. When you walk up onto the stage, the lights in the theater will automatically turn off, except for a single white spotlight pointing towards the curtains. Classical music begins quietly playing from the lighting booth. Yes, the lighting booth, not the speakers. And if you've somehow kept your sanity up to this point, good luck maintaining it now. When you go behind the curtain, you find a 25-foot long and 6 feet wide empty space with yet another curtain. Go behind the next curtain, and it's the same thing. If you try to go back to the stage, you'll only find more curtains. Each time you pass through a curtain, you see or hear something. It starts as a familiar figure darting from your peripheral vision out of sight, then maybe a voice you've only heard 5 years ago. Soon enough, you'll be seeing a full-blown recreation of your memories before your eyes on the stage floor. They're typically not the most pleasant, and you'll never see yourself in any of the memories. It's simply things that you've witnessed. These hallucinations are one-to-one from your memory, too, so if you don't remember someone's face, their face is blurry or gone altogether. If you don't remember what someone said, they begin to speak incomprehensible garbage. At some point, you stop encountering closed curtains. Now it's a mirror-like hallway where there's parted curtains every 6 feet ahead. The left or right is no longer walled off, and you can go either way if you wish, but it'll just be more curtains and memories as they become progressively more vivid. After a while, some memories already depicted will start showing up again, probably because you only have so many of them left. Your only hope of getting out of this layer is finding a memory that is from your time in the in-between that has a door as part of the stage set. This can only happen if you've encountered an aberration at any point, which you will hallucinate on the stage. Enter it, and you'll end up back on the layer the memory was from. Okay, now we're getting into the real can of worms. There were a lot of thoughts I went through as I was adding creatures into this place. Do I even do it? Do I suck it up and stick to like one or two entities like the amazing Kane Parsons, my inspiration forever, did? Obviously, I am one person and can't write a whole wiki load of pages anyway. For the sake of this video, I'll be sticking with the most important aberrations found in the in-between, and I'll go more in-depth in a future video if this one does well. A majority of these might be recognizable as a rewrite from the Backrooms wikidot, and some may seem completely unique, too. If you've been in it with any of my channels before, you'll definitely recognize one of them. We'll start simple and gradually go more complex. Since I want to keep it liminal, assume it's rare to encounter aberrations at all, unless you're on layer 4 or 5, at which point your chances increase. Final note is that they're biologically distinct from regular plants and animals by a duplicated nucleus in their cells, which is known thanks to our friend McDowell. Also, where did he run off to? Does anyone know? Lacunas. The simplest aberration there is comes in the form of what appears to be a fuzzy black ellipsoid shape that can attach to any surface. They absorb all light, making the younger entities harder to distinguish between a real hole in the wall. As they age, they will grow out of the wall until they attain a spherical shape, at which point they can flow about freely. Their surface is acidic, so it is heavily advised to avoid touching one unless you want your skin to meet. They reproduce asexually by making an imprint of themselves on a wall from which a newborn will grow. Some variants of this aberration are able to change forms to appear more humanoid, but it's a rare occurrence, and it's a brief occurrence. They can be found as far as layer 1, 3, 4, and 5. Scoripeds. These aberrations are long, snake-like beings with a sharp scorpion stinger at the tail and 4 lizard-esque legs on each side, plus 1 arm on either side of the front, that ends in 2 finger-like claws. Unless directly threatened, Scoripeds avoid humans. Anytime you'll ever see one is right as it skitters away with the uncanny sound of constant footfall. Their entire head is a muscular maw with long whiskers on the outside for sensing in the dark, and dark, abrasive edges on the inside. Their actual mouth isn't a hole, but rather, there's a structure resembling a human nose and lips where the hole in the maw should be. I will break the guesswork a little and say they don't attack humans normally, because they're actually parasites for larger aberrations. They're constantly in search of a place to lay their eggs. For food, they will eat any aberrations smaller than them. They can be found on layer 1 and layer 4. Dalían Surgeons. Dalían Surgeons appear as a beautiful mess of pale colors and sparkling minerals, and they are completely immobile. Their external skin on their entire body appears spongy and rotten, palely multicolored. They lure victims in with their ethereal beauty made of curling strands of hair on their face area and a large multicolored gem-like structure in place of a visible head or face. There are colorful, twisty spines that look similar to glass art in their surfaces. Moments later, the victim will become a pile of structureless flesh in front of it. This does work as a benefit for surrounding carnivorous
aberrations,
should they dare to sneak close enough. Gryhni. The second fastest aberration in this place is the Gryhni, which are capable of running up to 50 miles per hour. Their skin is hairless, jet black, and leathery. Due to being carnivorous, they are always starving from food scarcity. While they're more intelligent than the other species mentioned previously, they're still not particularly smart and can be tricked from time to time. The good news is that they only live in dark areas and get overwhelmed past a certain light level due to their pinhole-sized eyes. They also can't see very well, but the bad news is that they can hear and smell very well instead. McDowell called them demon rabbits in his earlier blog posts about them, but after some encounters, and realizing they're actually related to hares, he just used the common name. They're solitary and usually hunt alone, but they have a small variety of deep, guttural calls for communication with their grihni. There is one grihni that learned to mimic human speech, but I'll discuss that one later in the factions section. Fangs make them appear as sharp-toothed grins in the dark. Find them, or you probably shouldn't, in dark areas on Layer 1 and in the nests on Layer 4. Masks. These tricksters are rarely seen outside of a disguise from the skin of their victims. They will open their disproportionately wide mouth and that will bury inside of a person, allowing the mask to feed on them from the inside out. They have a limited range of vocalization used to mimic human speech. If you ever meet someone and see lips protruding from their skin and hear them speaking nonsense, it's best to stay away. If you see a mask undisguised, hide immediately. If you don't, have fun with your organs being eaten. Found exclusively on Layer 3, and when they're encountered, it's usually nearby an entrance or exit to a sublayer. Waders. The appearance of waders are still unknown due to their hunting technique, if you can even call it that. They produce a gray liquid that quickly absorbs into surfaces like carpet, dry wood, or dirt. The liquid rapidly evaporates in the form of semi-toxic fumes, which are only noticeable with a faint smell of rubbing alcohol. No stains, no visible wisps of rising gases, nothing. When a human mistakenly inhales these fumes, they will quickly begin to feel drowsy and actively seek rest. Once they are asleep, they are quickly consumed by these aberrations without a trace left behind. They only eat asleep victims, so if you start to feel tired without any reasonable explanation, do not go to sleep. It is unknown how many layers they roam, but their hunting tactic only works on Layer 1, 2, parts of 4, parts of 5, and some sublayer areas, so feel free to guess. Ευτυχισμενοι. On the more intelligent side, with some of the most complex hunting strategies currently documented. Anyone within a 20-foot radius of these aberrations will begin to hear carousel music that sounds like it's playing under the back of their neck, but the music always feels off. It's as if the notes are in the wrong order, or somewhat recognizable songs are playing in the wrong octave. Or even this weird feedback effect that floods cognitive ability. It is relatively easy to fight the direct effects of this phenomenon, but it gets harder when they're close enough for you to hear them moving. Their entire bodies are flat, pale, and lanky, with their limbs jointed by brass-colored circles. Older ευτυχισμενοι may have some of their leather-esque skin growing over these joints, but it is unknown how this affects mobility. They are considered the fastest moving aberrations and are in constant movement as well. Even when they appear to be standing still, they are constantly assuming new poses each second, causing them to usually appear as paper-white humanoid 7-foot blurs. They cannot make any vocal noise, but but it would be difficult since their constant movement creates a loud, never-ending buzz of quivering papers. More experienced ευτυχισμενοι will directly communicate to victims by implanting thoughts in the mind, representing messages to them. Particularly disoriented victims may not notice. It is believed that they have a complex culture that circles around crude, creative crafting, with many slain human victims being found in baking projects. Also, they likely communicate with each other through thought implanting or maybe sign language, but sign language is more of a theory since their movement is too fast to be noticeable to us. Despite hunting in groups as small as 3, they're chaotic and disorganized. They will become more orderly at the will of one other aberration. They are usually found on layer 5, but can follow their victims they're hunting into any layer as they please. The Seamstress. She controls them to find human victims for her. Her face has never been seen, as it's always obscured by a giant semi-sphere that looks like an oversized upper eyelid. She does not communicate with humans, only taking interest in the dead or dying. Upon acquiring either, she will deploy multiple tendrils to carry the victim to her domain, whose exact location is still undiscovered, and performs a taxidermy. Since her body is that of a starfish, she moves using hundreds of small tube feet at once. Only one person has survived her surgeries. The domain is thought to be somewhere in layer 6, but she spends more time on layer 5. The Desert Doll. His name in more precise English is Deserted Doll, although the other version is more widely used due to translated grammar mechanics from another species I'll talk about next. The desert doll is in the shape of a fox, but its body is packed with rearranged organs and structured with bones. He can think and recognize others just as people do, so he's considered non-hostile, but is infamous for his short temper and will use those implanted fox teeth if he feels the need to. He seems oblivious to the constant static sound he produces, likely a radio running perpetually inside his body. Any attempts he makes at speaking are always garbled and incomprehensible. That tends to be what happens when your vocal cords and entire voice system are terribly preserved. It is said that seeing this creature seals your fate of permanently becoming trapped in the in-between. He is only found on layer 1. The Ahanet. Not a lot is known about this species of aberration because McDowell only encountered 2 of them. Their native language is described as an odd blend between French, Russian, and English, but there aren't any recognizable words from any of the 3 languages, not that he knew of, anyway. The 2 Ahanet were friendly to McDowell, and were even intelligent enough to speak plain English. They are humanoid beings of about 7 feet, typically wearing medieval-era peasant garb. To identify each other, they wear plain white plastic masks, with a line broken into the middle for sight, and a symbol decoration somewhere on the mask. They mentioned to McDowell to never look under their mask, and he didn't. But he still couldn't help but wonder why that was. They share some kind of symbiosis with the same moss found on rocks in layer 2, where the moss will grow out from behind their mask and provide immunity boosts and oxygen, as they explain. They seem to be, quote, more advanced than we are, according to McDowell, but it's never been specified what this means. They will eat other aberrations, except their enemies, the ευτυχισμενοι, and will only harm humans if provoked. They will take humans in with them, but only if they are injured or visibly dying of natural causes. It is now estimated that only one unlucky Ahanet is left, forever guiding a female teenager through this treacherous abyss. But that's just a legend, isn't it? She's in the ceiling. She's in the ceiling. She's in the ceiling. Whoa, that was weird. Good news though, you're almost to the end. Anyway, in the original Backrooms wikidot, there's like, 10 different factions? 20? That overcomplicate things. Unlike the last section, where I only discussed half of the aberrations, there's only 2 major factions that are worth noting. Assume for this that factions refers to any organized group that is dominantly human and is mostly settled in a specific sublayer. Alger County Search Team. After the disappearance of Clyde McDowell, an official search party was instigated to investigate his whereabouts. Since he frequented deep wooded areas as hiking spots, the original team members were also equipped with survival gear and, something McDowell didn't have, some weapons. On the 3rd day of the investigation, team members began disappearing one by one. Eventually, the crew had gone from 15 members to 1. Only one person made it back out, but he lost his ability to speak after falling into a ditch and injuring his throat. The remaining 14 members all ended up on Layer 1 in different spots. While the in-between usually tries to keep its victims separate, these guys strangely had it easy when locating each other. Perhaps it was the gear that saved them. Who knows? They discovered a relatively safe sublayer to make base in and began to investigate this strange place. They even managed to capture 2 aberrations of their own, which are DSO-1 and DSO-2. DS literally standing for Designation Standard. They used McDowell's blog to assist in their research. DSO-1 is a grihni capable of mimicking human speech and quickly used up the team's rations to keep it docile. As long as they feed this grihni consistently, they can communicate with it. Though it's become very lazy and stubborn, and they have to threaten to release it when it doesn't comply. It refers to itself by the insult one member likes to call it, pestilent. DSO-2 is a technically undocumented humanoid aberration that is 6'3" in height and young and masculine in its voice. In other words, this aberration sounds suspiciously like a teenager. Contrastingly, it wears a pinstriped suit, complete with a red rose lapel, and its entire head is a spider. Just a spider, sitting where the neck should be. The spider isn't any identifiable species, but it seems to be a cross between a gray wall jumper and a cellar spider. It was first discovered tampering with communication devices and was believed to be sabotaging them. When apprehended, the aberration attempted to fight back viciously, but it was overwhelmed with the then organized team. It now sits dejectedly in containment, only offering some insight to this place. This spider person only seems to know so much, though. He gets very defensive when asked whether he's seen other survivors, and withdraws whenever McDowell is mentioned or described. He refuses to elaborate why he was sabotaging the communication devices. DSO-2 was not exactly named until a survivor encountered the team's settlement, at which point the numbers had dwindled to 8 members. All 8 members were relatively disorganized at this point, and only 3 are still trying to investigate this place actively. That day, one of the members were testing DSO-2's familiarity with human objects to gauge an aberration's understanding of the normal world. One item placed in containment was a singular sock. DSO-2 showed confusion and asked where the other sock was. After the experiment, the survivor, identified as Ashley Beckett, continually referred to DSO-2 as Sock Guy, since many spider-related names are already taken. The Colony. The Colony has an obscure history. It's an even smaller group of humans, only 5 known individuals, and are occasionally joined by non-hostile aberrations. They all wear patchwork robes that were allegedly sewn by one member using materials on Layer 5, but Layer 5 doesn't appear to have any known fabrics just up for grabs, so who knows who's telling the truth. They mention having a leader to which they are devoted, but the whereabouts of this individual are never disclosed by them. If anything, they seem to not know. Sometimes they will gain the trust of this world's victims by showing their casual and friendly sides. Other encounters are used to keep their needs met, usually cannibalism. They sometimes hand out advice, such as what layers you should be most careful on, where you're likely to find resources, how to avoid aberrations like the desert doll or the destructant, and how to enter some sublayers. But they will never give out any supplies or accept anything you're carrying. When out and about, a member of the colony will mark their presence by laying a scrap of paper on the ground with their emblem drawn on, a circle split down the middle with 8 lines extending out and around from the shape. Most think it looks like a dark sun with 2 halves. Obviously, this strategy doesn't work very well on layer 1 because of that disappearing effect I mentioned. And they refuse to go on layer 5 or 6. Understandable. Other factions are mostly just general descriptions of a type of person trapped in this place, or are an aberration species altogether. Remember what I said though, nothing in this place can change the environment. It can only cause change in you. Oh, hey! You made it to the end! Congratulations! Before I send you off on your merry way, though, there's a few things I'd like to mention. First of all, yes, this is a rewrite of the Backrooms, so everything here was inspired by Backrooms lore, particularly from the wikidot. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I know wikidot lore isn't really well received nowadays, especially after the content farming problem that happened back in 2023 and 2024, I think it was. But all over this video, I know I've heard some of you saying, "What do you mean this is a rewrite? You're just renaming systems and adding less entities." Yeah, unfortunately, for the sake of this video, I can only really explain my rewrite. If I know anything about the current Backrooms community, people hate explanations. That's why I try to keep stuff unknown where I could. Another thing I'd like to point out is ideally this whole rewrite would be presented in that blog posting format I mentioned. This means that there will be no big blocks of information like I gave you here, just individual entries that are about as long as a paragraph each, unless they're the normal blog posts in the beginning or long venti posts towards the end. You'd have to connect the dots yourself to understand any of this information. Research organizations always fail. Attempts to understand things usually get shut down by one unexpected, inexplicable event. The in-between itself has defenses from you knowing about it or trying to get out. If you've ever watched the show From and saw the ending to the first season, you'll know what I'm talking about. But it's such a good show that, yeah, I'm not giving you spoilers. So go watch that on your own time, please. This video is meant to be a closure for my major involvement with the Backrooms community, actually. If it really does do well, I might be motivated to actually try making this blog website. But at that point, you'll already know everything, so we'll see. Finally, I am very open to constructive criticism. I love writing this stuff, so any kinds of suggestions on how to improve this work are greatly appreciated. As for questions, you'll have to solve those yourself. Like, how did Clyde McDowell get Wi-Fi in this place? Well, that's a good question. Where does this place come from? Another good question. Is this video over? Yes. Thank you for watching, and remember that you are an amazing human being.